Welcome to a very somber, sad, dare I say, angry episode 105 of Dank Times Danker Thoughts with your boy, Angelo. I am shocked, to say the least, upon reading that Supreme Court Justice leak about the Supreme Court preparing to overturn Roe v. Wade. I think if you have listened to any of my podcasts, you know which side I am on. I am so diehard pro-choice, it hurts. And I understand the pro-life. Sometimes I understand their viewpoints, but not enough to overturn this law. Not enough to see about half the country completely restrict abortions if the Supreme Court ruling goes through. Do you think there's going to be anywhere in the South or most places in the Midwest that are going to allow abortions after this within, a handful of years? Less than 5, for sure. It's going to be a hellscape, just a hellscape for women. And for everyone, but mostly women, of course, obviously. It's beyond sexist. It's extremely racist. It's just evil. It's like an exhaustive evil. Like, you didn't think this kind of evil exists outside of Marvel and DC movies, because you thought surely in 2022, this country has progressed to a point where even most pro-lifers that I know say, but to each their own. It's everyone's individual choice. There's only a few nut jobs out there that truly believe that abortion is straight up murder and should be treated as like you murdered your spouse or your friend, or just murder. And those people I call Looney Tune people. They are from a bygone era. They would have fit right in if they were born in the 1700s, but this is the 21st century. You need to keep up. I think even the Amish are pro-choice. That I don't know. And the way that dirtbag Alito wrote the piece that was leaked, it was so smug and elitist and vile that he truly sounded like, to me, like he was a Batman villain. And I'm going to read a few excerpts here. This is from The Hill. "We thus return the power to the people and their elected representatives. Dear Christ. The practical effect of Alito's opinion would be to hand full authority to states to regulate abortion. Many Republican officials had urged the court to adopt this very approach in the Mississippi dispute." This is what is causing all of this. There is a case in Mississippi that basically is the grounds to overturn Roe v. Wade. I'm not going to go into that because I will bleed from every orifice in my body in rage. "With a dozen GOP governors in an amicus brief calling on the court to use the case to restore state control over the procedure, Alito's opinion delivered on that request, stating it is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. According to abortion right advocacy groups, the Mississippi case, 22 states would then follow and would be certain to attempt to ban the abortion as quickly as possible. Among those, 13 states have trigger laws already in place, designed to take effect automatically or by quick state action if Roe no longer applies." Oh, lovely. Abortion was never mentioned in the Constitution, you freaky fuck Alito. There are some people that look at the Constitution as a learning tool. That's what I look at it. I look at it as a document of its time that was written by men of its time to live in a current situation of that time, which is, hey, we are breaking away from England. We are using their territory against them, and we're calling independence. We're declaring war. And we're also slave owner white men who probably raped all of our wives, and that's how we reproduce. But that's just the sign of the times, you know. They were good men of their time. They would be criminals by today's standards, but by the 1700s, they were peak perfection. And so I look at that, and I don't look at it as gospel. I look at it like, yeah, that makes sense for its time. Let's bring context into it. And that's where I think some of the Supreme Court justices resign. And that wide arena of common sense understanding that I think is shared, and I don't think I'm talking out of school here, I would say about 80% of the population. Now, the 20% of the population that somehow the minority holds sway over the Supreme Court because there's fucking nut jobs like Alito and Thomas on the court that truly believe that that document, the Constitution, needs to be upheld in 2022 just like it was in 1776. There is no difference. Verbatim, we need to do exactly what's in that fucking document. Are you out of your mind? It's not like you do that with a book. Oh, wait, they also do it with a book. And you cannot tell me that this whole thing is not coming from religious, ideological bullshit. I'm an agnostic. I know plenty of agnostic friends and atheist friends. None of us are pro-life. I know plenty of Christian friends, and not just Christians, Buddhists. I know one Muslim. I wish I knew more, but what are you going to do? I think the majority of them are either pro-choice or pro-life, but it's, everyone's decision. The only people in my life that are pro-life and want to protect every baby, no matter what, and want to prosecute the mothers, prosecute the doctors, not prosecute the man who got the woman pregnant. No. Even if it's rape or incest. No, that was God's plan. Those people want to also defend the Constitution like gospel, who truly think that today's times are so awful compared to the 17, 16, 1500s when the average lifespan was 32? And like 90% of women died during childbirth. I mean, insane. Those are the people that are bombing Planned Parenthood. Those are the people that have those horrific signs outside Planned Parenthood and yell at young girls getting much needed medical help. Whores, sluts. And the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life is watching something like that on the TV. And there was this real Karen cunt looking bitch just screaming like a water buffalo at this poor woman who was just walking into Planned Parenthood. You don't know why that woman is walking in there to begin with, but that's unimportant. This fucking water bison is just spewing just the most hateful rhetoric, all while wearing a Christian necklace of the cross with Jesus just crying on it. But the saddest thing of all was that this wildebeest brought what I can only imagine as her daughter or maybe her niece, but the niece or daughter must have been less than 7 years old, a child. And she was holding a sign that I think it was a Bible verse, if I don't remember right, over a fetus fucking thing that looked like a burrito I ate earlier in the morning. And I just died inside when I saw that. I saw that in college. I want to say 2006, 7, 2000, something like that. It stayed with me. And I think about that a lot. Those are the people that somehow have 25%, if not more, of the Supreme Court. That is insane. That is insane. And then you have I will defend the states' rights over the federal government fucking nut jobs. Those are the ones that Trump put on, like the Gorsuch and the Amy Coney Barrett. Kavanaugh, I don't know what the fuck he is. He could be a religious zealot, but then again, he's excused himself out of some cases. And he's also cited against the church on 1 or 2 occasions. So I don't know. Kavanaugh's a wild card. He still looks like a cunty douchebag to me, but I don't know if I put him in that bucket. However, so when you combine the belief that states should dictate and that the federal government should just do broad-ranging things unless the states say whatever, and then it's just an ongoing battle. I mean, they're fucking assholes as well. And then the crazy, crazy, crazy constitutionalists who also happen to be crazy evangelical, crazy people. I don't see the difference sometimes, most times these days. And it hurts me to say this because, guys, I try real hard not to judge. I try not to judge broadly. If I'm going to judge, I try to do it on an individual basis. I don't like to even be ageist, which I have been called on this podcast, and deservedly so. Sometimes I am ageist. I've been working on that. And I don't even like to say this about Christians. or Muslims or any religious people. You know, often I joke on here, but obviously the context is in my voice a lot of the time. But I try not to paint with broad strokes. However, Christians have got to chill. I thought this would die out with the older generation, but I know a handful of Christians my age that I truly believe that they are trying to do some kind of weird Handmaid's Tale type situation. And I've had one of them tell me that they were trying to outbreed the Muslims, and I couldn't tell if he was joking or not because he wasn't laughing. And I looked in his eyes and I could look right through him, and I thought, that's not good. Outbreeding the Muslims is never something you want to hear from a blonde, blue-eyed white kid from the suburbs. You just don't want to hear those things. And again, I cannot say all Christians my age are like this. However, I am saying there is a scary, unfortunate high number still that I thought would be massively less. Because if you look at religion as a whole, looking at by generational, obviously our grandparents were, I would say, majority religious, spiritual. The boomer generation equally so, a little bit less, but still pretty good. Then there was a drop with Generation X, big drop with the millennials, and even more so with the Gen Z. So religion is losing some of its grasp in this country. I don't remember the latest poll, but I saw one recently that Christianity and actually most major religions are on the steadily decline. And you could praise that or you could woe it. I personally see a little bit of both. I do believe there is some positivity to religion, no matter what the faith is. You take something that should be personal. You take something that you should abide by, because that is between you and your God, and you start to force that on other individuals. That's where you lose me. That's where you lose most prophets of any major religion, by the way. And you just turn into a cunt that needs to be hit in the face with a baseball bat a few times, not to kill you, but just to wake you up a little bit. You need to understand what's going on. Maybe the baseball bat analogy is a little too extreme. I apologize. Maybe we just sick a bunch of angry hyenas at you. That way you at least can fight them off a little bit before they tear your asshole out and eat you from the outside in. But let me go back to some of the comments made by Alito in this leaked doc. Roe was remarkably loose in its treatment of the constitutional text. No. Conservatives have long derided Roe as untethered from the Constitution. Again, those people who literally fuck it at night. They literally put a little hole in a fake Constitution and they just fuck it every night while their wife cries in the corner. In a footnote, Alito included a key passage from Justice Harry Blackmun's 7-2 decision in Roe describing the constitutional underpinnings of the abortion right. This right of privacy, whether it be founded in the 14th Amendment's concept of personal liberty and restrictions upon state action as we feel it is, or as the district court determined in the 9th Amendment's reservations of rights to the people, is broad enough to encompass a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. Taking aim at that rationale, Alito described the rule as an unfocused analysis. Oh my God. And the message seemed to be that abortion right could be found anywhere, somewhere in the Constitution, and that specifying its exact location was not of paramount importance. It held that the abortion right, which is not mentioned in the Constitution, is part of a right to privacy, which it is also not mentioned. Stupid as hell. And this is where it gets real good, people. If you thought those key points were bad enough, we got a few more. A right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history. You mean the thing that was written in the 1770s when women couldn't even look at men for more than 5 seconds before being burned as a witch? One of the more, I don't know what this word means, one of the more tendentious claims in Alito's draft is that the inescapable conclusion is that a right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. He cites a litany of historical sources in seeking to establish as the existence of an unbroken tradition of prohibiting abortion on pain of criminal punishment persisted from the earliest days of the common law until 1973. Alito also asserts that no persuasive counter-argument has been put forth. A few of respondents, I don't know what this word means, A Mackey muster historical arguments, but they are very weak. Alito's treatment of the historical record is likely to draw fierce pushback from dissenters on the bench who have a number of amicus briefs to draw upon. Among them is a brief by David Gans, a constitutional litigator and scholar at the Constitutional Accountability Center, who says there's an originalist argument to be made against Alito's position. As Gans writes, the right to abortion flows logically from these fundamental rights that the 14th Amendment was written to protect. Court not bound by egregiously decided precedent. See, that one was pretty wordy, but listen to this bullshit here. One of the overarching concerns in the Mississippi case has been stare decisis. Stare decisis? The legal doctrine that generally binds courts to abide by their past rulings. Ain't that some fucking bullshit? How can you get any kind of progress if you never move by the past rulings when new shit comes to light? Strictly applied, the concept would leave the court no wiggle room to depart from Roe. But Alito, citing precedent, noted that we have a long recognized, however, that stare decisis, whatever, is not an inexorable command. Elsewhere in the draft opinion, Alito says the doctrine does not require unending adherence to cases that were wrongly decided, pointing to the infamous 1896 decision, Plessy versus Ferguson, that endorsed legal segregation by race before being overturned in 1954 by Brown v. Board of Education. State decisis does not compel unending adherence to Roe's abuse of judicial authority, he wrote. Roe is egregiously wrong from the start. Ooh, that's where it gets bad. That's where they really nail in the hammer. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. Yeah, because cocksuckers like you keep fighting it. Nothing in this opinion should cast doubt on other precedents. Oh God, he's calling it a precedent. Alito's draft emphasized that his ruling was a narrow one and would not spill over to decision on issues like same-sex marriage. Yeah, fucking right. Sex between gay couples. Yeah, right. And the right to contracept. That one is definitely going to go. Nothing in this opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. But many who read the opinion are unconvinced, deservedly so. I am unconvinced, and I'm not an expert. I think I'm not sure that's a good or a bad thing. Alito's draft is fueling questions about whether right that are seen as having a thin historical record and which are not inexplicably referenced in the Constitution, so-called unenumerated rights, would remain on firm footing if the draft becomes law. I think it's more than a valid concern, said Stephen D. Schwinn, professor of the University of Illinois Chicago Law. I think it's a real deep worry. And how could it not be? And what really pisses me off about this last statement is that Alito said that Roe v. Wade decision had damaging effects on the country. Hey, asshole, what the fuck do you think rescinding this is going to do to the country? I was taught in school, and I also talked to people who were alive back when Roe v. Wade passed. The mass majority of the country celebrated. Yeah, there were some pissed off people in the South and the evangelicals and whatnot, and they've been working tirelessly in their dungeon of doom to overturn Roe v. Wade ever since. But come on, do you not think what you're doing is going to have even more of a catastrophic effect than anything that's going to heal this country? You dumb, egotistical, nut job bitch. Now, I want to go back up to the precedent about what's currently been going on with the Mississippi ruling here. And when Alito was talking about returning this to the state's decision, because I went off on a long tangent, people, and I forgot what I was going, and I reread the article, and I forgot that I didn't finish this point. The practical effect of Alito's opinion would be to hand full authority to the states to regulate abortion, using the Mississippi dispute with a dozen GOP governors ready to do it. Yes, Alito's opinion delivered on that request, stating it is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Justice Brett Kavanaugh had pursued a similar line of questioning during oral arguments in December. He, along with fellow Trump nominees Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, plus Clarence Thomas, formed a majority with Alito. Why should this court be the arbiter rather than Congress, the state legislatures, state Supreme Courts, the people being able to resolve this? Kavanaugh asked, and there'll be different answers in Mississippi than New York, different answers in Alabama than California, because they are two different interests at stake, and the people in those states might value those interests somehow differently. The 2018 Mississippi law at issue in the case, which has been paused during litigation, is just one of 100 of abortion measures that state legislature passed in recent years. I think it's also important to point out that Susan Collins, the senator from Maine, a Republican, said that the fact that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh would be among the majority of conservative justices to support overturning Roe v. Wade, that it went against what they said during the confirmation hearings. And this is what Collins said. If this leaked draft opinion is the final decision and this reporting is accurate, it would be completely inconsistent with what Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh said in their hearings and in our meetings in my office. So, fucking liars. You may think all is lost, which it may be. It may be. But when you look at what's happening outside the world, there is hope. And I think it's important to remember that an outright ban of abortion in this country, making it completely illegal, has less than a 20% approval rating. The last polls I checked. And it's something like 18 or 17%. It's less than 20% with the margin of error. No restrictions whatsoever, which, hey, is even hard for me to swallow, but I can understand it. That has a slightly higher approval rating. So that's higher than outlaw banning it, which is less than 20. The having an abortion no matter what is somewhere in the 20s, but it's not high. But then the one that has, I think, in the mid 60s, and I apologize for not having the poll right up here, is that abortion should be legal with certain or light restrictions. And even within that one, the certain restrictions and the light restrictions were about even. So the fact remains, you have damn near 80%, if not over 80% of this country that believes that abortion either should be legal with some restrictions or some light restrictions or outright legal. The people that believe that it should be illegal no matter what are such in the minority that it's a shock that the Supreme Court is somehow on their side. I think that this could be a godsend in a macabre way for the Democrats in the midterms, which I know it's awful to think about it like this, to look at it as some kind of political chess piece, but unfortunately, I can't help but look at it this way. Do you really know any Democrat voter that is excited to vote in the midterms, or dare I say vote for Biden for 2024? I don't know anybody. I certainly am not. I would still vote, but I'm not excited about it. I'm not exuberant. I don't believe in any of the front-running candidates that I've seen so far. And looking at the midterms, I can't imagine how Biden's not going to lose both House and the Senate. So it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And Biden just sits there like a fish that's on its side, half in the water, half out. Can't quite make up its mind if it's alive or dead. Things look bleak. And then the Republicans gift him this. And if Roe v. Wade does get overturned, it'll be roughly around the same times that the midterms are either starting or ending. What better way to get your base fucking fired up? Roe v. Wade, and the Democrats, if they have just even the smallest pinprick of a brain, can say, people, even if you don't like Biden, even if you don't like the liberal establishment, you got to look at the Republicans and see what they're doing. They're taking away abortion rights. They're going to take away gay marriage. They're going to take away most LGBTQ protections. They don't give a fuck about voting rights. They don't give a fuck about the environment. And did you forget about January 6th, where half of the Republican fucking base was encouraging that, it seems? I mean, come on. And the only thing that the Republicans can run on is inflation. And that the Democrats acknowledge it and say the smart thing, which is, hey, we take some responsibility, but not all of it. Let's be real. We take a little bit of it, but come on. Trump did some bad shit. COVID really did some bad shit. The war with Russia and Ukraine is killing us. And, you know, you got to be real. Call out Saudi Arabia for the fucking thing they were doing with the oil prices way before inflation even started, but it started. And call out the fucking billionaires and say, hey, they've been making record profits before COVID. They got even higher during COVID and are still making record profits, and yet prices are soaring. What? It makes no sense. It's just greed. The Democrats let Bernie say that part, because let's face facts. The Democrats are not going to do shit with Bernie. I love that old man, but he's I don't know. He needs to retire and just like have a podcast where he brings on current politicians and whoever, current activists, and just talks, because I would love to see him run in 2024, but he's going to be damn near 90. And even if he says I'm only going to be here one term, I can't imagine he's going to get much done, because even if he carries Congress like Biden did, I can't imagine the mansions and the cinemas of the world going along with an actual progressive democratic agenda. I just can't see it happening. So if the Democrats just use a little bit of common sense and run on this, I can't predict that Biden still won't lose his ass, but it's going to be more of a fight. It's going to be more of a fight. And depending on what happens there, even if he can save one chamber, and he can, which would probably be the House, but even if he can hold on to one, it'll be a win. Do I see it happening? We'll see. Within hours of this Supreme Court leak, you had the Republicans frothing at the mouth, wanting to pursue what happened to the leak. You had the Democrats just rolling in their own feces, saying we have to investigate as well. And then you had the actual Supreme Court wake up off the ceiling and shake their bat wings off and realize, oh shit, I'm a vampire. I have to become a human to actually hold a press conference here, because we have to investigate as well. See what I did there? I made fun of all three. I call the Supreme Court vampires. This is why I shouldn't smoke sativa. I'm all over the fucking place. I really should just hold on to hybrid indica and maybe hybrid sativa, but strictly indicas, because sativas, man, goddamn. Anyway, I did want to quickly mention that it's doom and gloom here. I get that. But when you look globally, there is still successes happening. Let me read this from the Washington Post. How abortion laws in the U.S. compare with those in other countries. When the Supreme Court heard arguments in December on the Mississippi abortion law, Chief Justice John Roberts focused on the legislation's 15-week cutoff. It is the standard that the vast majority of other countries have, Roberts said. It's true that many countries have a cutoff of 15 weeks or earlier for an abortion, but a closer look reveals a much more complicated picture. For example, many European countries limit on-request abortions to the first trimester. That's more restrictive here in most of the United States. And the U.S. is one of less than a dozen countries that allow abortions after 20 weeks. But many countries offer broad exceptions after the first 3 months for socio-economic reasons. Oh my God, can you imagine we have this here? Such as unemployment, medical issues like fetal impairment, or social issues like the age of the mother. They also don't have the same types of barriers that we have here, Center for Reproductive Right Litigation Director Julie Rickleman said. There is only one abortion clinic in Mississippi. The Mississippi law provides for exceptions only in case of the life or health of the pregnant person or a lethal fentanyl anomaly. But states could soon be in a position to pass more stringent restrictions or ban abortion entirely if the majority of the Supreme Court upholds the Mississippi law and overturns the right to abortion. The majority of the court is prepared to take that step, according to that leaked draft version that was obtained by Politico. Good job, Politico, by the way. In the past 3 decades, countries around the world, Argentina, Colombia, Ireland, Mexico, New Zealand, and Thailand, have made it easier to legally get an abortion. Think about that. There are some Latin countries that are deeply Catholic, and they're passing abortion. I mean, come on. In some parts of the U.S., however, it's gotten harder. Access to the procedure has increasingly declined in more than a dozen states around the country. The most restrictive law to date is in Texas, with nearly 30 million people, which ban most abortions around 6 weeks, whereas most women don't know they're pregnant after 7. A Washington Post analysis looked at how the United States overall, as well as the abortion laws in Texas and Mississippi, compare with other parts of the world. Understanding legality versus access, legality is one thing. Access on the ground can look very different. Anti-abortion groups echo Roberts, saying U.S. laws are too liberal when compared with the rest of the world. I think very few Americans realize just how radical and out of step America's abortion laws are in comparison to the rest of the world, said Angelina Nguyen, an associate scholar at the Charlotte Lozier Institute. Mark Levels, a professor of health at Maastricht University who studied the development of abortion laws over 4 decades, said that in places like the Netherlands, where abortion on request is available until the fetus is viable, most abortions still take place in the first trimester. He attributed this fact to the combination of widespread availability of effective contraceptives like birth control pills and a culture that openly talks about sex and provides sexual education. If you really want to ban abortion, the one thing that you can do is provide contraceptives freely and openly and be able to talk about it in a Christian country like this. Liberal abortion laws do not necessarily mean abortions are easily accessible. There are countries with procedural barriers including doctor approval, parental consent, mandatory waiting periods, etc. In Germany, women must receive counseling and wait 3 days to get an abortion. In the Netherlands, the waiting period is 5, so that, according to the government website, you can think carefully about your decision. The enabling legal environment is really just the first step towards enabling people to actually exercise reproductive autonomy and to access safe abortion care, said Catherine Mayal, the Director of Strategic Initiatives at the Center for Reproductive Rights. Making access to abortion is a reality for people across the globe, and it requires so much more. This included policies that cover the cost of abortion services and integrate it into the healthcare system, and societal measures that destigmatize the procedure. Even countries where abortion is legal or decriminalized, women can still face obstacles to access it. A 2020 study found that in Italy, where abortion is legal, access can still be limited because over 70% of gynecologists are registered as conscientious objectors. This designation allows them to refuse abortions due to moral or religious beliefs. And while abortion in the first 3 months of pregnancy was decriminalized in South Korea, it is not clear if the procedure is widely available to those seeking it. Expanding abortion rights worldwide. Still, overall, when it comes to the legality of abortion, countries around the globe that have changed their legislation on this issue have largely pushed to increase access in the past 3 decades. Exceptions include Poland's near total ban in 2020. Even as fewer restrictions are being put in place around the world, data shows that a lot of countries with the most liberal abortion laws have lower abortion rates. Restrictive abortion laws don't lead to fewer abortions. They only lead to more unsafe abortions. As Argentina was debating whether to pass a law legalizing the practice in 2020, the health minister at the time said that more than 3,000 women had died in Argentina since the early 1980s as a result of underground abortions, a regional anomaly in the abortion laws. In the Americas, the U.S. is one of the least restrictive in the region when it comes to abortion access. But as conservative states push to pass legislation making access to abortion more difficult, countries in Latin America have had a green wave toward liberalization. In addition to recent legal changes in Mexico and Argentina, Colombia's constitutional court in February voted to decriminalize abortions in the first 24 weeks of pregnancy. Ecuador decriminalized it in cases of rape in April of last year. Mexico, which has one of the world's largest Catholic populations, decriminalized abortion in September of 2021. 4 of Mexico's 32 federal entities already had broadly legalized the procedure. Across many Latin American countries, contraception can be easier to access than in the United States. Brazil, Colombia, and Nicaragua, where abortion is either banned or only allowed under some circumstances, have some of the highest contraception prevalence rates in the world. I mean, come on, that's common sense. I mean, can you imagine if we had anything like that here in this country? I mean, I remember in high school, it was shameful to go into like the student department of whatever and like ask for contraceptives. It was embarrassing. Imagine if they just gave them out free, like it was no big fucking deal. The Texas law also incentivizes the public to report and sue those who are breaking it, with the possibility of a $10,000 reward, raising the stakes for medical providers and abortion right advocates. It's been very overwhelming just trying to figure out how to get people the care that they need, said Zaina Zamora, executive director of the Frontera Fund, an advocacy group based in the Rio Grande Valley on the Mexican border that helps women pay for and travel to abortions. She added, "I'm concerned about the viability of my organization. I don't want to get sued into the ground so that I can't do my work." Zamora said she suspected that if abortions become more available in Mexico, she could see a lot of people going there from Texas for care. But she noted that many of the people she helps are undocumented. They can't go into Mexico because they won't be able to come back. I think it's also important to point out that this country, if they do make abortion illegal, you're forcing birth in a country with the highest maternal mortality rate. I'll get to that in a second. No paid maternity leave for the mass majority of workers. No universal subsidized child care. No continued birth parent care. And frequently inaccessible mental health care. We aren't prepared for this. We don't have universal health care. We don't have shit protection for parents and their kids. And when I reference that we have high maternal mortality rate, we do. It's been increasing every year since early 2000s. It's been going on the rise, people, for some time. There's been plenty of reports about this. The CDC did a great story on it, referencing what WHO has found out across the world. So, and basically, to summarize it, out of any quote-unquote civilized countries, the U.S. has a rising maternal mortality rate. And this is with Roe V Wade being legal. It's only going to get worse. And with that, I have got to stop talking about abortion because I am deeply, deeply disturbed and depressed. And all I wanted to do was talk about some fun things today. I saw the Northmen. I was going to read from my journal. It was going to be a fun podcast, and this bullshit happened. So let me shake a little bit of happiness in me, and we'll get right back to it here. I alluded to it a little bit earlier in the podcast before I went on my soapbox about abortion rights. Just thinking about that makes me squirm in my seat. I saw the movie The Northman. That is the new Robert Eggers movie. And you may think, who the fuck is Robert Eggers? He is the guy that directed Witch and The Lighthouse. Two great films. This, I did not know, is a retelling of Hamlet. Did not know that. I probably should have guessed that by what the plot was, but, you know, I'm not one for Shakespearean plays or movies. I don't dislike them, but I don't actively seek them out. I think if you've seen one interpretation of Hamlet or Macbeth or Romeo and Juliet, you've seen them all. However, I will say, The Northman is a visually stunning movie. One of the most beautiful movies I have ever seen in terms of the visuals, the cinematography, the music. Good God Almighty. I mean, it was so very tribal, and it reminded me of what music we had when there was like druids and we were worshiping animals and plants and the sun and the moon instead of that asshole god. But let me go ahead and pull up the movie here. From visionary director Robert Eggers comes The Northman, an action-filled epic that follows a young Viking prince on his quest to avenge his father's murder. You got Alexander Skarsgård as the star. He was good in it. Nicole Kidman, Klaus Bang, Ethan Hawke, Anya Taylor-Joy. Good God Almighty. I don't know who's more attractive to me now, her or Zoe Kravitz. Both make me angry with how attractive they are. And there's so many fuglies out there. But good God, Anya Taylor-Joy in this movie. Ooh, I was in love so quickly. Alexander Skarsgård, like I said, he is really good in this. It doesn't require him to do much acting, mind you, because it's really just an action movie, a revenge movie. But I will say, if you like period piece movies, or if you like Shakespeare stuff, or if you just want to see a non-Marvel, non-DC movie that doesn't have a lot of CGI, it does, don't get me wrong. But it's not made for CGI, if that makes any sense. The movie's a little long, a little over 2 hours, but to me, it seemed worth it. Overall, I say the movie was good, not great. What was great in the movie, like I said, was the visual storytelling and the fucking music. It's all Gregorian chants and heavy drum usage. Got me all worked up. I just would imagine back in the day. This takes place roughly 900 AD to like 1000 AD. And what I like is that the music was from that era, or as best as we know. There was no classical music. There was no contemporary music. It was all just chanting and drums. Oh, it was so fucking cool. Moving to TV, I started the last season. This is very bittersweet for me because this is one of my one of my more favorite shows of the last 10 years, Better Things. It started in 2016 and it's wrapping up here in 2022. It is the Pamela Adlon and Louis C.K. created show about an actress raising her three daughters while juggling the presence of working in Hollywood and being a single parent. Pamela Adlon, if you may not know her name, but you know her if you watch any movies or any TV, specifically animation. She does a lot of voice work. But if you just look her up, she's been in over 220 acting credits. I mean, she's one of my favorite character actors, and Better Things is her time to shine. She's been in a lot of Louis C.K. stuff, Lucky Louie back in the day on HBO, and then Louis C.K.'s Louis show on FX that was critically heralded before he got caught asking women permission to jack off in front of him, which don't get me started on that. It's not like he just whipped out his penis and started jacking off. He asked permission, they said yes. Was he abusing his power? Sure, you could make an argument for that, but the fact that I still see people furious at Louis C.K. and comparing him with the likes of the Weinsteins and the Bill Cosbys of the world, it's asinine. It's stupid. I was watching a podcast and they had I think she's Puerto Rican and black female comedian. She was talking about how cancel culture was after her because she refused not to play at a venue that was also playing Louis C.K. And she said, no, I may not be a fan of what Louis C.K. did, but I'm not going to not do my job because he's doing his job there. It's just stupid. So she got a lot of shit for it. So again, if you're still on the anti-Louis C.K. bandwagon, go take a bath at the radiator and just end it. We're done with you. So check out Better Things. Another show that I started is season, I think 6, which I cannot believe there's been this many episodes. The Expanse on Prime. I've talked about it before. It's almost like you take Game of Thrones, Battlestar Galactica, and West Wing, and they all fuck and they have a baby, and that baby is The Expanse. 6 seasons. It's an amazing show. It's an epic show. If you're wanting to start a series that, to me, is up there with the greats. It doesn't get a lot of press because it's on Prime, but it's well reviewed, well acted. It's something completely new. I don't think there's a TV show or even a movie out there that's like this. If you care, it has an 8.5 out of 10 on IMDb with almost 150,000 reviews. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I love this show. It's one of my favorite current shows. In the 24th century, a group of humans untangle a vast plot which threatens the solar system's fragile state of detente. It's based on a couple novels. They have the people who wrote the novels are involved in the show, which is always great. There's no big stars in this, which helps keeps cost down, and they can use that for CGI and intense action-packed spaceship fighting action scenes. And when you're dealing with geopolitical stuff, but at a global level, so you have Earth versus Mars versus the Outer Rim versus these black hole rings that open up. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to spoil it. But if you like shows that are like Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, The Orville, that they take place in space, but there's much more to it than that, check out The Expanse. You'd be a fool not to. And lastly, I started the 3rd season of Barry on HBO. That is another one of my favorite shows. I love Bill Hader. I love Stephen Root. I love Henry Winkler. The actress in it, I have never seen her in anything. Sarah Goldberg, who plays Sally. I love NoHo Hank. It's a fun show. Is it dark? Is it macabre? Of course, but it's such a fun show. Bill Hader really found, and I think he even created this show. Yeah, he did create it with Alec Berg. He really hit gold here. I love Barry. So if you're looking for new shows, check out Better Things, The Expanse, or Barry. And if you want to go see a movie, check out The Northman. My next movie will probably be the new Doctor Strange movie. I'm not seeing it opening week. I probably will wait a week or two to go see it so crowds die down. I'm avoiding spoilers like it's COVID. And yeah, I hope it's half as good as I think it's going to be. Well, I was going to talk about the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, but instead, let's talk about the Seahawks draft. I did not plan for the abortion thing to happen, so podcast schedule kind of got screwed up. And plus, who the fuck cares about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? They're both animals. To me, I'll summarize it here, my opinion. I feel great sadness for both of them. I think they're both fucking asshole animal douchebags. I think Amber Heard is a gold digger, and I think Johnny Depp is a 60-year-old man still trapped in a teenager's body. I do think he hit her, but I think she also hit him. I think it was a mutual abusive relationship. I think they're both fucking savages. Amber Heard, I think, was playing a game with Johnny. I think she just wanted his money and to launch her career and whatnot. And I think Johnny Depp knew that. It wasn't his first time around this whole bend. I mean, he's 30 something years older than her. What did he think? She was there for his good looks? I mean, no, he looks like Keith Richards' son. He doesn't look good. But I've always been a Johnny Depp fan, big fan of his movies. Even though he is kind of a weird guy, he dresses in weird purple leather sometimes and wears eyeshadow and mumbles a lot. But hey, Edward Scissorhands, baby. I love that fucking movie. Ah, and so many more. Crybaby. God damn. But anyway, they're both animals. Fuck them both. But anyway, yes, the Seahawks draft. I give it an A minus, which is saying something because you know how hard my grades are. And I'm ecstatic that we did not take a quarterback. I was surprised that we didn't take a quarterback. Well, how can you mean both things, Angelo? Well, let me clarify. I thought for sure we would take a quarterback in this draft, but I thought it would be in the fifth round or later. So when we selected Charles Cross in the first round, by the way, I did not think he would be available at 9. I am overall happy with this pick. Initially, I wasn't. Initially, I thought, oh God, why did we take him? Why didn't we take, there was a pass rusher I wanted, the Johnson kid from Florida. But the more I read into Charles Cross after the draft and blah, 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 I knew going into it he was one of the top offensive tackles in the draft, if not the best. But he doesn't run block. He never really did that in college. I think only 20% of his plays. So he has to work on that, but overall, he's the best. And they're saying that he could be a decade long franchise tackle. So that's cool. And in the second round, we picked a pass rusher out of Minnesota, Boy Mafe, whatever. Like the pick, we need a pass rusher, and he's fast. Then this is the pick that surprised me. Kenneth Walker, running back from Michigan State. Most draft boards had Charles Cross as the number 1 or number 2 best all-around tackle. They had Boy Mafe in the top 10 for pass rushers, and they had Kenneth Walker as number 1 or number 2 for running backs. So you got 3 top 10 players, and really top in their class depending on where you look. But the running back, I thought, do we need a running back so bad that you would use a second round pick? And then I thought, well, Chris Carson may never play football again. And Rashad Penny's on a 1-year deal, and he's never stayed healthy. And then you got a bunch of backups. So I do like this pick. But then you saw all the quarterbacks sliding in the draft. And so this pick surprised me, but I liked the pick, but it surprised me. Was in the third round, we picked Abraham Lucas from Wazoo, Washington State. Love the player. We need a right tackle, and he is arguably one of the best right tackles in the draft. But I thought we would take Malik Willis here. I thought we would take Matt Corral. So I was shocked that we didn't take a quarterback, but I also was loving the picks. And then to close out the draft, we picked 2 corners, which I think both will end up starting. And we picked another pass rusher, which I don't think he'll really ever be a star, but I think he'll be a good rotational piece. And then we took a few wide receivers in the 7th round, which I only heard of the one guy from Rutgers and how it's kind of a steal that he was still there in the 7th round. The other guy was from like a really low-level college. Who knows if he even will make the practice squad, but big fan of the corner picks, Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati and Tariq Woolen from Texas San Antonio, who looks like a Richard Sherman clone. So all in all, even though we didn't take a quarterback, we got some of the best players in the draft at their respective positions. I don't think we reached. I am probably surprised by, well, besides us not taking quarterback, I'm even more surprised that we did not do any trading whatsoever. I don't know if Pete Carroll and John Schneider have ever done this, not made one trade. I mean, that's what we were known for, is trades, 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 trades. We hold on to all of our picks and we use them. So, color me surprised. But overall, like I said, I'm pretty ecstatic about the draft. I think we got a bunch of stars here, And I'm looking at some of the undrafted players. Again, you can't really read too much into the undrafted players, but the Seahawks have hit gold many times before. The likes of Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, Deshaun Shedd. I think Brandon Browner was undrafted. There's a few others in there. I'm just drawing a blank. So, hey, I am very surprised that we kind of did the non-controversial way of drafting, which has not been the MO of the Seahawks in the past. And you could tell by most of the sport pundits' reaction to our draft, it's saying just that, how surprised, how good it is, how wonderful it is that the Seahawks got value for all their picks. They did the smart, common sense picks for once, even though we had probably one of the best drafts in NFL history, and it was wildly panned, that infamous 2013 draft when we got Bruce Irvin, Bobby Wagner, and some guy named Russell Wilson, some jabroni that turned out to be the real sus. But anyway, I can't complain. I'm very happy. What I'm not happy is how bad the Seattle Mariners have been. Whew, we just finished our road trip going 2-7. And that was after we had like a 5-game winning streak before that. Before we played the Florida Marlins and the Houston Astros on the road, we had the third best offense in baseball, if you can believe that. But since this road trip, I don't see how we're not dead fucking last. I don't think we scored more than 3 runs in any of our games, even in our victories. Don't quote me on that. I don't really know. But that's what it felt like. I mean, we got owned. I'm talking pwned by the Astros. So, you think you're making a little bit of leeway, but you can't freak out. It's only been about 25, 26 games. So, chill, my babies. But with that, I think we can move on to almost getting ready to close here. We will end this podcast on a funny note. Fictosexual man marries a hologram bride, but now struggles to bond with her. I'm going to read this again for those of you who had your head explode. Fictosexual man married a hologram bride, but now struggles to bond with her. Not to be racist, but of course this man is Japanese. She's not real, but his feelings are. A fictosexual man who wed a fictional, computer-synthesized pop singer 4 years ago said now he is unable to communicate with his wife, but is still in love with her. Oh, God almighty, there's no hope for us at all. Akihiko Kondo, 38 years old, was dating Hatsune Miku, depicted in pop culture as a 16-year-old with a... I mean, let me start over here. So he's also a pedophile, but like in a digital, fictitious sense. Because he was 38. Well, he was 38 4 years ago. So he was, 32? And he got romantically involved with a fake 16-year-old. I mean, maybe this is good for pedophiles. Maybe this is how you take care of pedophiles. Instead of them getting a real 16-year-old, you give them a digital one from a TV show and let them do whatever they want. They're not going to leave their house. It works out for everybody. Okay, I'm going to read this again because I can't get over it. Akihiko Kondo was dating her, Hatsune Miku, depicted in pop culture as a 16-year-old with turquoise hair, for a decade. Okay, insane. Before they had an unofficial wedding ceremony in 2018. So I have no idea how old he was then. He may have been in his late 20s, still a pervert. Kondo, one of many who identify as fictosexual, or someone who is sexually attracted to fictional characters, spent 2 million yen, or about $17,300, good God, on the nuptials, but his family did not attend. Shocking there. A Japanese family not attending their son marrying a 16-year-old fake fucking teenager pop singer from a TV show. Good God. But I can understand fictosexual because there are some animated characters that I grew up with that I formed crushes on. It makes sense. Jessica Rabbit, obviously. Nala from The Lion King. Pretty much any Disney princess. I mean, I would bang all of them. And some of the animal characters as well. Married now for 4 years. Again, he married a hologram. Kondo is now 38, and he said his relationship has hit a roadblock. He can no longer speak with Miku due to a technological hurdle. While Kondo acknowledges his relationship might be odd, just might, he understands Miku isn't a real person. However, that doesn't change his feelings for her. Since falling in love with her in 2008, Kondo was finally able to interact with her for the first time in 2017 thanks to a Gatebox, a $1,300 machine that allowed device owners to interact with characters via holograms and even unofficially marry them. Good God, I mean, this is the fall of mankind. But now his 4-year marriage took a turn when support for Gatebox software was eliminated, meaning that Kondo could no longer speak with his wife, Miku. He insists it hasn't lessened his feelings. My love for Miku hasn't changed. I held the wedding ceremony because I thought I could be with her forever. And I'm sorry to sound, if you want to say I'm racist or stereotypical or whatever, but he looks like a guy who would fuck a hologram. And I want to point out, the hologram is in this tiny little like jewel case, kind of like Beauty and the Beast. The Beast had that flower and that little jewel case. Same thing with the hologram. So she's tiny. And I also want to reiterate, she's 16. And they're showing pictures of him in his bedroom. There is this Hatsune Miku character and life-size dolls. And you can't tell me he's not fucking that doll. Smaller dolls. You can't tell me he's not fucking all of the dolls. He's got like Beanie Baby looking characters. He's definitely fucking any toy, stuffed animal that has this Mitsune character to it. You know that he stuck his sad, sad little wiener in it. Kondo is far from the only person in the world in a relationship with a character. Thousands of fictosexual people in Japan, no wonder their birth rate is so low, I have got to go to Japan and fix this, have begun similar unofficial relationships with a variety of fictitious figures. Oh, God, there's a picture of this. I mean, this looks like a hologram to me because she's like splayed out on a bed. But she looks fake. She looks like a CGI. And she's got these long turquoise hair. But again, she's a teenager. But again, if he's fucking a 16-year-old digital hologram made up fictitious character, it's better than fucking a real 16-year-old. While some of the relationships are just for kicks, Kondo's, to him, is very real. For a long time, he said he knew a human partner just wasn't for him due to his intense attraction to characters like Miku, a popular figure in anime and Japanese culture. Created as a synthesized voice using Yamaha's Vocaloid technology, Miku entered mainstream media as a human, but fictionalized character in manga, anime series, and video games. Eventually, she became prominent enough to tour with the likes of Lady Gaga on her 2014 Art Pop tour. Oh, but Miku isn't just famous. She's also helped Kondo with his depression. Well, I guess there's some benefits there. Kondo first became familiar with Miku in 2008 after bullying at work caused him to become depressed. Despite finding it difficult to accept his feelings at first, he knew humans weren't right for him after being met with rejection by others. I stayed in my room for 24 hours a day and watched videos of Miku the whole time. I guess therapy was out of the question back in those days. In 2017, his relationship blossomed thanks to the Gatebox. The machine gave Kondo the chance to propose to Miku, and he invited his family and co-workers to the ceremony, but none of them came. However, 39 people did attend, including strangers and online friends, some of which are also fictosexual. These are 2 reasons why I had a wedding publicly, he told BBC at the time. The first one is to prove my love to Miku. The second one is there are many young otaku people like me falling in love with anime characters. I want to show the world that I support them. But should you? And I try not to judge people. I really do. But if I found out one of my mid-30s buddies said, I got married over the weekend. After getting over the initial shock of not being invited to the wedding, not knowing about the wedding, not partying for the wedding, no bachelor party. Once I got over that, and he would tell me, yes, I married the Pink Ranger from Power Rangers. I would say, wait a minute, the actress? I didn't know she's even around. She's got to be in her 60s. He's like, no. I married a hologram of the Pink Ranger from Power Rangers. And here she is. He takes out his phone, clicks a button, and a hologram of the Pink Ranger pops up with giant anime eyes, I would look at him and say, are you for real or is this a joke? But I guess at the end, if he's happy, that's all that really matters. But, oh, God. I mean, I thought understanding this new LGBT QAnon spectrum we got going on, understanding non-binary, non-gender, whatever, like, I try to stay as on board as much as I can, whereas still having common sense and a brain and going off biology and medical science. But who is this hurting? If you're fucking a anime character and you're fucking it through a stuffed animal, I guess in my analogy, if I would go to my buddy's house and in his bedroom, there was nothing but pink Ranger toys and stuffed animals in the hologram, and I knew that he was just fucking a stuffed animal like a real person, I would have a hard time being okay with that. But again, I'd have to say, if he's happy and he's not hurting himself or anybody else, is this so wrong? So I don't know, people. Hit me up. What fictosexual characters you want to have sex with? I named off a few. I think I have to really think about this now. Maybe the next podcast I'll have a list of fake fictosexual characters that I would not mind sticking my real human penis into the stuffed animal characters. I mean, again, the thought of me having sex with a sex doll already fills me with dread. But then I think of it being like a character from a movie or something, fills me with even more dread. I'm trying to think, who is the most attractive animated character to me? Well, my knee jerk is probably Belle from Beauty and the Beast, or Jasmine from Aladdin, or Pocahontas. Who else? I can't fuck Nala from Lion King. That's just a bridge too far. That bridge is getting blown up. I'm burning that bridge. It ain't happening. Because at least Pocahontas, who did I say? Jasmine and Belle. At least they are humanoids. Not fucking a lion. But the thought of paying damn near 20 grand to talk to this fictitious hologram character and then go out and buy life-size stuffed animals and just fucking them, I just think that I'd rather just open up a vein in a nice bubble bath and do all that. But yeah, send me who you want to fucking anime and we can talk about it on the next podcast. But on that happy note, we can wrap up here. I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't be a judgy cunt. And yeah, love one another. Even though you see abortion rights falling and marriage equality is going to follow next, it could always be worse. You could walk in on your child fucking a stuffed animal while a hologram character cries in the corner.